General Grievous was the cybernetic monstrosity that Palpatine cut loose during the Clone Wars to butcher Jedi. Therefore, it is natural that many would draw similarities to that and their new cybernetic creation of the Empire, the Sith, known as Darth Vader. Many believe that Darth Vader was simply the next iteration of General Grievous, one of Palpatine's rabid dogs created after years of experimentation, trial, and error during the Clone Wars. Darth Vader too was a legendary Jedi killer, and although the Jedi themselves sensed a distinct difference between General Grievous and Vader in the dark side itself, many still drew comparisons between Darth Vader and Grievous, especially Lord Vader himself, as deep within his mind he feared that now to Palpatine and to the rest of the galaxy he was nothing more than another version of Grievous. So today, my friends, we'll be talking about what exactly happened to make Vader fear this, how this ultimately changed the way that he approached being a Sith, and the way that he approached the galaxy at large, as well as the lasting impact on Grievous on the galaxy post the Clone War. Vader believed that his gift to touch the Force made him better than nearly everybody else. This was something that was a thought that festered within the mind of Anakin, but one that he would never act upon. However, with all of that great promise and strength, it was robbed from him by his cybernetics and by Obi-Wan Kenobi, robbed from him by his very master, who took what he had learned from General Grievous and implanted Vader with subpar repairs and limbs of his own. Because of this, Vader feared deep within himself that his greatest role would simply be to become the next General Grievous. Vader sensed that his place in the Empire was now under question, that at first he was being groomed to rule the Empire at the side of Palpatine, but now he believed that he would be relegated to more of a military mind, a general of the Empire if you will, just like General Grievous, who held no real power over the Clone Wars, real power that Vader now desired, but was fearful that all he would be relegated to was commanding massive armies on the battlefield, never being able to reshape the galaxy as he believed that he was now entitled to. Vader's first year in his cybernetics was absolutely maddening, questioning everything that he had now become, twisted into a slave of Palpatine. Unfortunately though, things would only get much worse for Lord Vader. His connection with the Force had been disturbed. Not only was he now accessing a brand new aspect of the Force that he was not familiar with, due of course to his training in the light side as a Jedi, but now he felt the power that he could have tapped into dying within himself. It was still there somewhat, but it was not the flame of progress that it had once been. Now, all that remained was embers, and Vader was doing everything he could to stoke the fire and to keep it alive. But this is where Darth Vader would encounter a terrifying realization. During one of his first encounters of the Jedi Purge in a group of Jedi, Vader found himself to be extremely slow and cumbersome. His gifts of the Force is not exactly what was holding him back in this moment, rather his brand new cybernetics. And a brand new reality dawned on Vader. Palpatine had intentionally made him weaker, far weaker than what he would have been had he been given superior repairs. Instead, he was gifted very similar repairs to that of Grievous. In the duel, Vader began to feel himself being pressed by what he considered to be a subpar lightsaber duelist as a Jedi that with the might of Anakin, he could have crushed easily. But now, the Jedi before him required more focus to draw upon more of his hatred and his training. This infuriated, but more so, terrified the Dark Lord that his path truly had become that of Grievous, an extension of Grievous's fate, a role predetermined. But then another thought, somehow even worse. Palpatine wanted Vader to be afraid. He wanted him to feel every ounce of his failure on Mustafar, and because of that, the enhancements and cybernetics that he gave him made him slower. The Dark Lord's natural reflexes slowed significantly, and Vader found himself drawing heavily, concentrating on the dark side to keep up with a subpar Jedi, one that he struggled mightily to eventually defeat. And now, it dawned on him, this was all punishment by Palpatine. He truly was nothing more than an ex-general. Beyond this, Vader began to have a profound sense of jealousy for Palpatine. Palpatine had in fact triumphed over his greatest enemy in the Jedi. They were now gone. And to make matters even better, the entire galaxy now bowed to him as their sole emperor. Palpatine had come out on top. He had achieved everything that he had ever wanted. but Vader was simply put in charge of stormtroopers. Vader's role in the galaxy was not to lead it into a bright new generation and future. That was Palpatine's role. It would be Palpatine that would shape the galaxy as he pleased, but he simply needed Lord Vader to enact his smaller plans that had to do with war, the military, stormtroopers. He needed a military leader, not a true Sith apprentice. And this thought echoed within the new mind of Vader. What this also meant is that Palpatine would also be seeking out brand new apprentices that would one day overthrow Vader, looking at him no more than a stepping stone. But this mindset was not one that would last forever. Vader would find it within himself to break free of this and find newfound strength that rivaled and potentially even surpassed what he had felt on Mustafar. Vader refused to give up and knew that he was destined to become so much more. Grievous was an afterthought, and that would never be the role that Vader would fill. Vader would come to realize that Palpatine had in fact left him with a gift. That gift was pain. Vader would draw upon that pain, not only the pain of losing everything that he had been as Anakin, but the physical pain of his suit, as it tore at his exposed flesh, and he found it difficult and cumbersome to move. Vader would find himself meditating on that pain, his brand new existence, and unlike as a Jedi, this gave him great power in the Force, and the next time that he would encounter Jedi, he would crush them handily, the dark side giving him newfound life, a newfound power that someone that could never touch the Force would not understand. He came to realize that Palpatine, although limiting him physically, had gifted him a brand new perspective on the Force itself, had literally gifted him pain, constant, eternal. But in turn, that pain fed his suffering and his power, and he grew to levels not thought possible. Following this though, Vader would come to learn more about General Grievous. He would come to realize that it had been Dooku that had sabotaged Grievous's ship, and it was predetermined that he would undergo a cybernetic transformation into something that they needed, a true military mad dog. But it was the plan from the very beginning. This realization clued Vader in that it had never been Palpatine's plan for him to lose on Mustafar to Obi-Wan. It had never been Palpatine's plan to diminish the power of Lord Vader, especially not this far. And because of this, Vader ultimately determined that it was not his role to become the next General Grievous, that Palpatine had everything planned out except for Vader's defeat on Mustafar. Grievous had been very intentional. Vader was an audible, a reaction to a defeat that neither Sith Lord saw coming. It was not Palpatine that had planned for Anakin to be defeated on Mustafar. The only reason he went there was to further the goals of the Empire and to have Vader draw upon a deeper connection to the dark side. He was sent there to become more powerful, not hindered or less powerful. He would also slowly come to realize that all of this was not his master and Palpatine's fault. It was his fault that he had been granted subpar cybernetics by his master, but the reason that he required them in the first place was his own defeat at the hand of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a duel that he had overestimated his own skill and power and underestimated that of the Jedi, something that he promised would never happen ever again. And this newfound resolve, again, continued to have Vader grow exponentially in power. He took accountability for his mistakes, and his hatred for Anakin Skywalker grew as his hatred for his master was quelled for the moment. It was all his fault, all the fault of Anakin Skywalker, and this hatred only grew his power. He was no General Grievous, that was sure. This was not preordained. He was never supposed to lose on Mustafar and be given subpar cybernetics. He was never intended to be a military leader at all solely in the Empire. He was intended to lead. But because of the weakness of Anakin Skywalker and his failure on Mustafar, all of that was robbed from him by himself, not Palpatine. And this accountability allowed Vader to grow to lengths and power that not even Palpatine previously thought was possible. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Vader's deep fear about becoming the next General Grievous? A lot of this information can be found in The Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. But now, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Vader's greatest fear his first few weeks in his newfound suit? And what are your thoughts on how he ultimately conquered them? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel today, and as always, may the Force be with you.